When you want to send money to me?
Just yes, when I want to send money to do.
And you know now, before, as you've been trying, you've said, oh, it's taking too long, I can't do. This is now when I was out of the country.
Yes, I remember, and it was difficult.
It was very hard, isn't it?
Yes.
And then you said, how I wish there was a way that I could send it to you, and you didn't have to wait for 3 days, you didn't have to do something, long thing. I have the answer. So that now when I go again, we were not going to have the same problem. Sawa? It's called Virtual FX. And all those problems that you had, it is sorting them out one by one.
Gone.
I'm telling you, out the window. Quick payments, 1212. You've sent the money. In minutes, I have it on the other side, right? I know, slow payments, it's high fees, and then they used to charge you a lot of money, and then constantly worrying about exchange rates. How do you change Kenya shilling, dollar, naira? How's it going to... Not going to happen anymore. It can feel like you're losing money every time when you do that. But with Virtual, they say it's faster, it's cheaper, it's cross-border. No hidden fees, no delays. Whether you're paying international suppliers, like myself, and managing the treasury or handling payments for your customers, again, like myself, we've got you covered. Virtual FX gives you the tools to send and receive money across 190 countries in 49 different currencies. So, brother, you don't have to worry anymore. And then if you need more information, you just need to go to www.virtualfx.com. Sawa?
Done.
Period. Now, we're still talking about revenue, but now we're talking about how it's going to be allocated across the country. There's a formula, and everybody's already shouting. What are we going to do? How are we going to get about it? What is going to happen from county to county? That forms the basis of the conversation that we will be having this morning. And our guest for the hour is already seated. And revenue allocation and the new formula has been, top of mind for a lot of people in the country today, from county leadership and across board to the national government. Hadija Juma is a commissioner of the Revenue Allocation Commission, Commissioner of Revenue Allocation, and she's here in the studio with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm very good.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And it's a new year, so we're still saying new year at least until the 14th. After that, we'll be saying other things.
No, until my birthday.
So in other words, what Mark has tried to tell you now is that his birthday is on the 14th of February.
No, it's not.
Until your birthday, April
Fool's Day, yes.
It's true. Okay, until your birthday, say Happy New Year.
Thank you.
All right, we'll remember that. I need to remember. So, Karibu Sana, Commissioner.
Yeah.
And before we get into the conversation, let's welcome you properly. CT has gone to another African country this week. He's got a proverb. And you have so many formulas that people are all working with now, but now let's just make life just a little bit more difficult for you. So you'll translate this proverb, tell us what you think about it and how you would, resonate with it. Good?
Yes. She informed me when she arrived that she is scared of the proverbs that she says the proverbs you have are scary. Now, the proverb I have today is really not scary. It's a proverb that everybody can relate to, and it's not difficult to understand. Okay? Our proverbs for this week come from the Republic of Djibouti. A guest who breaks the plate of his hosts is not soon forgotten. She has laughed.
A guest who breaks
the plate of his hosts is not soon forgotten.
Is not soon forgotten. Yeah. Okay. Ideally, it's expected that when a guest comes at home, they're supposed to behave well. And if they end up maybe breaking a plate, it shows that they've messed up. And when they mess up, then they'll always be remembered for doing the bad thing. Yeah. Yeah.
We don't like those kind of visitors.
Why?
They break your plates and then your mother is mad at you.
Yeah.
It already hurts to host a visitor, right? Your food is less.
Did I get it?
Oh, you are 100% right.
Really?
There are things that people do that guarantee. I mean, when we talk about guests, in an African setting, we think of in-laws.
Yes.
When you visit your in-laws, your behavior is supposed to be at its very, very best.
Fine.
And the things you don't do. For instance, in some communities, they give you a lot of food and they expect you to eat. And that's why people even take with them people who are known to eat well. In some communities, you're expected to say you're full even when you have a headache because of hunger. Yes. So it's understanding, but you are 100% right.
Well, there you go. So, Commissioner, as we get into these conversations and looking at what the new formulas have in store for counties, there's already a bit of chatter around what this could mean. Let's start from the very beginning and what the Commission takes into consideration when revenue then is being allocated or shared to counties. What are some of those elements? How do you come up with this formula in the first place?
Thank you so much. The Commission on Revenue Allocation is a constitutional commission established under Article 215 of the Constitution, and its mandate is outlined at Article 216 of the Constitution. And there are several mandates, around 5 mandates, but the principal mandate is to recommend a basis of nationally raised revenues for sharing between the national government and county government and among county government. So the Constitution mandates the Commission on Revenue Allocation to come up with a formula where nationally raised revenues will be shared among county governments and between national government and county government. And then it's important to note that the Commission recommends and then the Senate determines, meaning the final word is with the Senate. So, however, it's also important to note that the Constitution did not give the intervals at which the formulas are supposed to be developed. Although, as a tradition, this is the third commission since the devolution. The first commission came up with 2 formulas at an interval of 3 years. The second commission came up with the third formula, and now this is the third commission that has proposed a 4th formula. And there are several things that are looked at, several parameters given different weights. Maybe I can talk about the current formula, which is the third formula. The different parameters that are used. There are around 8 parameters that are used to just show how revenues can be allocated. The first parameter is population, that is given a weight of 18%. The second parameter is health, that is given a weight of 17%. We have basic share. Basic share is where now all counties get equal share because of administration purposes. We believe that whether a county is small or big, they have the same number of administration. For example, Lamu County is the smallest county. They have 1 governor. Nairobi County is the biggest county. They also have equally same governor. So basic share addresses the administrative part. And then we have poverty. We look at poverty levels, and the third formula gave it a weight of 14%. We also have something called urban services that is given a weight of 5%. Then agriculture, that is given a weight of 10%. We have roads, that is given a weight of 8%. If you look at these parameters, we always say that we use parameters that compensate each other so that we have a regional balance in terms of resources, regions getting resources or development. For example, urban services as a parameter, it benefits those city counties or counties that have more urban centers and towns. But at the same time, that is compensated with agriculture, because now most of the rural counties will gain from the agriculture parameter. So that is how resources are allocated depending on the parameters. And then we also have land area. Land area addresses the issue of vastness of a county. So those are the parameters that are being used now with the third formula. And now the proposed 4th formula that has brought an uproar. We have looked at 5 parameters. Population at 42%, basic share at 20%, poverty at 14%, And then land area at 9%, and there's a new parameter introduced called income distance, which is at 13%. And income distance is supposed to address those income distance looks at the distance between a county to a county that has the highest GDP. And in Kenya, the county that has highest GDP is Nairobi, definitely.
Okay.
So they look at the distance, and in my opinion, that is. I think that parameter is irrelevant.
Can we get it clear? So what are we saying? For example, if I am in...
The far you are from Nairobi.
So if I'm in Lamu County, for example, and depending on how far that is from Nairobi, then I would get more in terms of allocation to the county? Okay.
Exactly. That's what that parameter is trying to address. But if you look at devolution, already services have been devolved. So we do not need to allocate resources depending on the distance of a county to Nairobi.
Why would it matter if you're farther or nearer away from Nairobi, if you're, again, like we're saying, in devolution, and we're within the devolution process? Many would argue that's still not fully implemented. However, why is Nairobi still being used as, a nerve center if devolution has securely taken place?
Actually, that is also my argument, and that is one of the parameters that is bringing uproar in this fourth formula. Yeah.
But Nairobi controls what? 36% of Kenya's GDP, or is it less than that?
Yeah, it's around 36%. Yeah, it has the highest GDP.
Yes. So I think the assumption is that there's a lot more business to be done in Nairobi than there is to places that are far-flung. But also let's remember the development along the highway model that we used for a long time. So maybe there's some sense there. Let me start with the big elephant in the room that we always have. Does the government disburse at least 15% of its revenues to counties? Because that's always the elephant in the room. Has it hit 15%? Can we definitively say that?
Yeah, we are actually at 23%.
Awesome.
We are actually at 23%. And it's also important to know that the 15% is just a caution. Yeah, we are not saying that what should go to the counties is 15%. And then the 15% is based on the last approved audited accounts by Parliament. Unfortunately, the last approved audited accounts was in 2019-2020. So Parliament still owes us...
technically 15%.
Yeah. So we've been actually engaging Parliament and asking them to approve the latest, at least, audited account so that it can increase the allocation to the counties.
I'm sorry.
Audited, not budgeted.
However, the Commission does not work on budgeted accounts.
No.
The Commission works on audited accounts.
Yes.
So how do you give an up-to-date formula for allocation if what you're working with in terms of audited accounts is essentially 7 years old?
Okay, there are two things. One, whatever we allocate resources is based on the projected revenues that are collected. For example, now, the figure that we have given this year, and there's a formula, and then there's the vertical figure that is given annually. So the figure that we are giving this year is based on what the National Treasury projects to collect next financial year, which is 2025-2026. Now, the 15% comes in as a caution that, sometimes National Treasury may under-project. They may give a low figure saying that this is what we will collect. So even if they under-project, the 15% was brought there as a caution so that it does not go below 15%. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you said...
So whatever is being allocated is based on the projection of the next financial year, not the past, what was last approved.
So what happens if you are below the projections and you've already allocated based on that projection?
It has never happened. And I don't think it can ever happen because revenues every year in and out, it's always increasing. Like, for example, last financial year, or rather this financial year, the projection was 2.6 trillion. And now next financial year, National Treasury has projected, they had projected 3 trillion, but again, when they looked at the growth, they said they may not be able to target that, so they projected at 2.8 trillion, meaning at least we will have increased by around 200 100 billion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You said that the commission makes, I think the word that you used, you said the commission makes the suggestions or makes the allocation, and then Senate is the one
determines.
essentially that will determine what will happen.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, if Senate says yes, go ahead, that means that they've seen sense in what the commission has suggested. But now with the uproar that we are hearing, what is the issue with the formula that has been raised beyond this proximity to Nairobi element? Is there anything else that's the problem? I know that one of them is population, but now population being that there's nothing you can do about that. With you know how many people are in a county, for example, and based on that, you allocate resources based on the number of people that you have. So if you have less people, clearly, you have less resources to use. So where is the bone of contention now with this particular formula and how it has been arrived at, apart from this proximity to Nairobi issue?
Yeah, surprisingly, maybe you may not know, as much as I'm a commissioner, I'm one of the commissioners who dissented to the proposal, and I do not agree with it. And when there's an uproar there, I think they're just also speaking my mind because of several reasons. And actually, as much as we are using those parameters, what comes out, the results, is what now people look at more compared to maybe how you arrived at that. And you find that what is actually causing uproar in this proposed formula, there are several things. One, according to fiscal responsibility, no county is supposed to get less than what they got the last allocation. Okay. But when you look at this formula, 21 counties are losing out, and are losing out adversely. Why? For example, Mandera County is losing out by 2 billion. If this formula is passed, then it means Mandera County will lose by 2 billion. If this formula is passed, then it means Kakamega County will lose by 1.4 billion. If this formula is passed, it means Kilifi County is going to lose by 1.2 billion, Kwale County by 1 billion, Turkana County by 1 billion. So you find that more than 21 counties are losing, and that is a lot.
Okay, please, Commissioner, walk us through where this loss is coming from, so that we can understand what has been applied that would then bring about the incurrence of loss.
It is because of the parameters and the weights that were used. The parameters that I told you about, the basic share, the population. You see, in the third formula, it was function-based. As in, we are talking about health, we are looking about health, we are looking around agriculture, we are looking around roads, the devolved function. But in the new formula, the commission felt that we do not need to now to go function-based. They wanted to try something else.
Okay.
And
why abandon the function-based?
Maybe if you just give me time, I explain why there's an uproar, and then I explain that question. One, the 21 counties are losing out. Two, all the city counties are losing out. That is Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru, Kisumu, and now Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County. They're losing out. You cannot reduce funds from city counties if you want to grow an economy of a country. And that is why so many governors are not comfortable with the formula. Number two, City is asking a very good question. Why abandon this? And that is why I'm saying, as much as we are saying that we do not agree with this fourth formula, we must propose what is the solution. In my opinion, we can still retain the third formula because one, it was function based, and then number two, more functions have been devolved to counties. It does not make sense that we are devolving more functions. The other day you saw more functions were gazetted. We cannot devolve more function to the counties at the same time you are telling them that we are going to reduce their funds. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all, and I agree with you, City, that why do that? And Kenya, I always tell people that Kenya borrowed heavily. The constitution of Kenya borrowed heavily from South Africa. South Africa has used one formula for the past 30 years. What is different with Kenya? we can still retain the third formula because it was function based. And with the third formula, if we use the third formula, all counties are gaining, and they're gaining evenly. The county that's gaining least is getting around 200 million, and the county that is gaining most is Nairobi County is getting around 900 million. And if you see the spread is even. So the third formula can be retained, and we say that fine, CRA, you tried to maybe show us what else we can do, but this is not working. And when you reduce resources for counties, you are actually killing devolution, and that is not what you want to do.
What exactly was the thinking behind this fourth formula?
Actually, when you change from one formula to another formula, you must have a clear objective.
Yes.
What is it that you are addressing?
Yes.
Are you in a crisis? Are we in a crisis? If you ask me, I'll tell you no. Second, this third formula was developed in 2020. And it was very consultative. City, if you remember, resources are very emotive. And if you remember, there were a lot of divisive politics during that time. And as a Kenyan, I don't think we need to go that route now, because we have subjected Kenyans to so many changes in the past 2 years. Maandamano ya sufuria, maandamano ya Gen Z, and now we want to again divide Kenyans based on this formula. So I feel, and at that time when the third formula was developed, it was run at a figure of 380. This financial year, we are at 387. I feel the difference is very small. We do not need a new formula now. Can we just retain the third formula? Because we do not have a clear objective to change this formula, and there's no crisis that we are trying to address.
So you answered my question. There is no clear objective for creating the new formula. Let me get a little political here. The need for change is often brought about by evidence, by data, that whatever exists is not serving the purpose for which it was intended. So if we introduce a full formula, we would be therefore suggesting that the third formula was not meeting the objectives for which it was brought into being. So the question...
Before you ask your question, let me just localize that statement. Imagine your child is in Form 2, and you sat down and did a budget, Kiwi shoe polish, blue band, all of those things. And when he was in Form 2, you determined he needed 10,000 shillings pocket money or 5,000 for that year. Now he's gone to Form 3. There's inflation, etc., etc. Then you decide to give your child, instead of 5,000, you're giving them 4,000 because you've changed the formula. Is that an apt description of what is happening?
You put it well, Mark.
Actually, that's the description. And before I come to your question, let me answer CT. CT, I think there's a tradition in Kenya that if Spice FM appoints CT, he wants to prove that when I was at Spice FM, I did something. I think, just to put it locally, maybe that is what is happening at the commission, that now that we are the third commission and the formula happens once in your term, we must prove that when we were there, we did something.
Okay.
But I think that is not fair to Kenyans if we just have to do something because we were there. I always say that sometimes it's also good to appreciate the person who was there before you and what they did. And if what they did was good, just continue with that. And that is why I'm still advocating that we retain the third formula, because if you look at the third formula, actually, in terms of allocation, the spread is so even. The spread is so good compared to the proposed fourth formula. Although there was also an issue, we have small counties. In Kenya, we have 6 small counties. That is Tharaka Nithi, Isiolo, Taita Taveta, Lamu, and Elgeyo Marakwet. And these counties are getting less than 5 billion allocation. And actually, they were really complaining, and I agree with them that a county like Lamu, the allocation is 3 billion per financial year.
Yeah.
What can a county do with 3 billion? That is so little. So that is one thing that maybe I can say also provoke the commission to start thinking on how they can help these small counties. But I'm telling Senate that this can be addressed at the Senate. We retain the third formula, and then we say that for these counties that are getting less than 5 billion, there is a clause in the Constitution that allows Senate to apply affirmative action. And then they say that no county should receive less than 5 billion. I think that will have solved the problem.
Okay.
There's this little. Are we going on to a break?
Yes, we are, but ask your question. No? All right. Let's
No,
go on to a break.
I will ask it after the break.
Okay, hang
Okay.
on to that and we'll ask your question. In the meantime, before we do that, there's a gap in the country every now and then. There are folks who enter into the market, 1 million of them every year, and sadly don't have the skills that they need to be able to get into the workplace or being able to start a business. And Mark, tell us who's sorting out those issues.
Well, there's a title and I really like it. It's called KCB 2 Jiajiri. 2. You know what that tells me? That through KCB and what they're doing, through their empowerment fund that they're doing to address the unemployment problem in Kenya that they say is at 12.7% among young people between the age of 35 and 18. 12.7% unemployed, not even counting those that are underemployed. Now, when you look at that, what KCB is offering, and it's brilliant, it is offering a training program to empower and equip unemployed and out-of-school youth working in the informal sector, combines vocational skills, right? So like things that you can practically do with your hands, business development skills, how do you expand your business, how do you do accounts, access to finance, and business mentorship. So they're not just training you, but they're also giving you access to finance, the capital that you need to get going. And this is in small and micro enterprises through various sectors between construction, manufacturing, beauty, personal care, domestic care, automotive, creative economy, ICT, sustainable agriculture, and climate change initiatives, as well as health. So it's a broad spectrum of things. But the point I want people to carry home is not everyone is an entrepreneur, but every entrepreneur will create 2 to Ajiri at least.
There you go.
2 Jiajiri, like ACB.
There we go. It's 26 minutes to 8 o'clock. We are having a revenue allocation conversation this morning, and we'll continue looking at the intrigues and challenges of that when we come back from this break. Don't go away.
This new year, discover something new every day on your StarTimes decoder. Buy an aerial decoder plus 1 month free classic bouquet subscription to enjoy the magic of African stories on ST Swahili, AMC Movies, and ST Nollywood. Tales of adventure that take you far on Bliss TV, ST Kung Fu, Z Cinema, and Nat Geo. Or a dish decoder plus 1 month free super bouquet subscription to watch heartwarming dramas that bring you closer.
Do you want to be my wife?
Yes, David. I want to marry you.
Exciting kids shows to keep the little ones entertained.
You got it, dude.
Experience the thrill of live sports on La Liga and Bundesliga. For every mood, for every moment. StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
What else do you want me to do? Kneel down before you?
Even if you do that, things between us will never go back to what they used to be.
I will make you love me again, Aiden. And I will not let anyone stop me.
I'd like to ask if any of your maids go by the name of Lala.
Carlos, I think that's Mila's accomplice.
So you better act fast. Find that woman no matter what it takes.
Oh, Lala. I took care of her before.
What do you mean cancel? You call the party off? You'll do it next
That's not how I write. Like, come on.
Geez, who would do that?
Miss Guerra, a guest just arrived.
Pops, what is Nico doing here? I thought you said the two of them would never cross paths.
Hello. My name is Frank Mwiti. I'm the CEO of the Nairobi Securities Exchange based in Kenya. Catch me on the Trade Bell Show as I speak about the market performance for 2024, the outlook for 2025, and more importantly, update you on our new strategy for 2025-2029 as we rebuild and revitalize our market. Thank you.
Well, indeed, welcome.
As young people say, ni ile siku, because they're talking about snails.
Farm Kenya is your ultimate guide to everything agriculture. Every Monday, get your fill of Agri-New, panel discussions on policy and regulation, and how to feature on Farm Guide. Tuesdays are all about nutrition and health, plus our popular Farm to Plate segment, bringing you delicious recipes straight from the farm, as we give voice to farmers on Sauti ya Mkulima. Farm Kenya, working to secure your growth.
So 3 billion, in my opinion, is still a lot of money. For it not to be adequate, there needs to be demonstrable evidence that in their pursuit of managing the affairs of the citizens of that county, they used the 3 billion and they were short by a certain amount. But so long as we have queries by the Auditor General asking why this didn't go the way it did and why this money can't be explained, whatever money these people are getting, in my opinion, is adequate. Now, let me ask the question. There was something called the Equalization Fund. What is it supposed to do?
Equalization Fund.
Eh.
Okay. Yeah, Equalization Fund is a constitutional fund that was introduced to address inequalities that were there before devolution. And in the first phase of devolution, 14 counties got the Equalization Fund that is supposed to construct roads, build health facilities, address issues of schools, water, and electricity. Yeah, and the second commission came up with a different policy that said, as much as we are talking about the 14 counties, we still have pockets of marginalized areas in these other counties that can also benefit from the Equalization Fund. So they went ahead and identified 1,800 pocket marginalized areas that came from 34 counties, and Equalization Fund is 0.5 of the budget every financial year that goes back to
0.5 of the national budget.
Of the national budget, yeah, so that goes back to.
Now, when you talk about marginalized communities within other counties, they are a population. And when you talk about the population that you're referring to, where the weight was, what, 42%?
Yeah, 42%.
Are they not included in that weighting of that particular formula?
They are. In fact, population is also one of the parameters that is used in the Equalization Fund.
Precisely. So, arguably, yes. Now, how do you balance this population allocation with the poverty allocation? Because I would have assumed that when they say marginalized, they mean poor. People who live in semi-structures, people who live in slum areas and so forth. So you weight the population at this. Then you weight the poverty at 18, okay? So how then are the poor taken care of?
Right.
City?
Yes, please.
Marginalization is not poverty. Yeah.
It's not poverty.
Marginalization is poverty. For example...
What is it then?
Okay, according to how the Constitution has defined marginalized areas, these are areas that do not have access to services. For example, these are areas that do not have access to roads. These are areas that do not have access to electricity in terms of national grid. These are areas that do not have access to water. I want to give you an example.
And of course they are rich.
I was...
Patently so.
Now, this is the difference. This is the difference, City. Actually, I was brought up in Korogocho slums, and now Korogocho is poor, but is not marginalized. How? you are living in poverty, maybe you will go without food, but a school is just 500 meters away from your home. You will go without food, but there is water, a water source, just 50 meters away from your home. Now that is the difference. So, in fact, the Constitution is very clear on what equalization fund is supposed to be used on water projects, health infrastructure, school infrastructure, and national grid.
May I ask?
Yeah.
I know this still continues to be a rolling question because there are other elements that come in here.
Yeah.
But then, who then is responsible to ensure that the revenue that has been allocated to these county units is actually doing what it's supposed to? I can already hear that the answer is Senate, but then how then does it affect the formula in the future should you find? Because again, we're going back to audited results. It's not possible for you to know what happened in 2024 if the last completed audited results are from 2019, for example. So how do you ensure? Because for me, it seems like it should be a base point for you to say, okay, here, we gave you X amount or certain percentage to allow you to do 1, 2, 3, water, ensure. So we should have essentially seen the index then drop if we're saying that there was no water, piped water to residents in 2024, but that because of this revenue that has been allocated, we have seen that number drop significantly by certain percent. Does that not come in as an element that then is used to allocate said revenue, or should it not?
Commissioner, let me help you because I disagree.
No, allow her to answer the question.
I am disagreeing with you. Just allow me.
I asked, you can't disagree with the question.
Yes, I'm disagreeing with the premise. Because
he can.
Yes, because your premise is, and I'll go back to the high school example. If your child misuses his pocket money and eats part of the school fees, the process of punishing him is separate from what the fees will be next year. I don't know if I'm making sense. The process of revenue allocation should not and cannot be affected by the reason that Governor XYZ did not do his job. The instrument of punishment is not Senate. There's DCI, it's a criminal activity. There's the anti-corruption authority, it is also a criminal activity. There's the controller of budget who also controls budgets for counties. Then there's the treasury, which is also enabled, as we were told yesterday, I think, to actually stop. So for me, where I sit, I don't think it's a fair question to ask the commission in charge of revenue allocation to also do the work of policing.
If you had listened to my question, you would have heard when I said who is responsible for making sure that the revenue that has been allocated
Actually, I've understood your question, and you are both very right. And you are both
was about to eat me.
As a commission, our mandate just ends at allocating the resources. We have different institutions with different responsibilities. However, as a commission, we did something called impact assessment of devolution. The past 10 years of devolution, where were we? Where are we? What are the challenges that we've been facing, and how can we address these challenges? Once the report is validated, we'll make it public. It will be a very interesting report. In fact, I'll bring it to Spice so that you can also get to go through it, and that will answer the question of City on why he believes that even a county that is getting 3 billion is a lot of money. A county that is getting 3 billion, City, only addresses administrative. 3 billion actually is not even enough for salary. So you find
we are sanctioning their inability to manage their funds well.
So
Exactly.
you find that a county that is getting 3 billion, they only remain like around 50 billion for development. And that is why you've seen there's an outcry that there are some counties that are not spending money on development, although as a commission we've come up with something called recurrent expenditure budget ceilings that is helping counties to guide them. And remember, we allocate, we don't budget for counties.
Madam Commissioner, this prehistoric thinking of political leadership that you must employ as many people as you possibly can, that is not how you grow an economy.
Yeah, and
Yes.
and we are addressing that as a commission. We are addressing that through the budget recurrent expenditure budget ceilings that we've done that for now 2 years, and I want to assure you it has we have seen results in the past 2 years. We are controlling
Madam
that.
Commissioner, I do agree with you. I do agree with you, but
yes,
you are the guest and you must speak. So please continue speaking.
Yeah. And then on the question of who must maybe look at how counties are spending money. Different institutions have different roles. The commission allocates the resources. National Treasury ensures that they collect revenues and then disburse the resources on time to county governments.
I don't know about on time, but okay.
Yeah, they disburse the resources. Once they disburse the resources, now the counties are able now to utilize the resources. However, the Constitution brought a caution through the controller of budget, and this controller of budget is the one now who controls how counties spend money. By when now the county have money in their counties, they come to the controller of budget. The controller of budget checks if the money is available, and then they tell the controller of budget, this is what we want to spend on this month or this quarter. And if the funds are available, then the control of the budget allows them to use the money. After they spend the money, now the Auditor General comes in to check how did they spend the money. Now, maybe what we need to be asking ourselves, what happens? Because if you talk to a common mwananchi, they'll tell you, hata sisi hatuoni pesa ya county inaenda wapi ama inafanya nini.
Yes.
But now, once the auditor, and then the governors will tell you we are spending the money well according to the PFM Act. Now, between the Auditor General and maybe anti-corruption and the DPP and the courts, now that is when we need to know what is happening there. Because I expect after the Auditor General audits the account and they find maybe there's an issue that needs to be addressed, and if they have enough evidence, they forward the issue to Commission of Ethics and Anti-Corruption, which will now do investigation. And if it's found that actually money was not spent well, or projects that the counties claim they have spent on have not been spent on, and then they take the case to DPP, and DPP takes the case to court. So at that point, that is when we need to ask questions that what happens in there.
Because if you're looking at a situation where devolution essentially has been, around for the last 13 years, right? 14 years now. And if County X has been getting, 3 billion shillings every year. And that's the question that CT asks, is that where do you do a trace in terms of all this money that you've been given? And we can see the formula, right? Let's just say that you've been allocated this money. We can see the formula. And certain money should go towards certain things, and that's what it has been allocated for. That you should be able, after 13 years, to see a significant amount of progress.
Friend, which governor have we seen since devolution was put in place who has taken the people out of poverty? Which one?
And there's a poverty index here that is used to allocate the revenue. Right?
We have 11 counties that has reduced poverty since devolution. And the city, you know very well, there are counties out there. There may be one or two who are not doing well, but let us just reflect back in our villages. Let us just reflect back in our villages before devolution and now. Honestly, there's a very big difference. And then look at what Honorable Gladys Wanga has done for Homa Bay County. She has really moved Homa Bay County from one level to another. Look at what Mombasa County is doing. And don't just look at the floods, but there are other parameters of development that you look at, and you will appreciate what Governor Abdulswamad has done for Mombasa County. Go to Central Kenya, and there's something that we are always telling counties. If I were to rate counties from Central Kenya are doing very well. They're doing wonders. Look at what Moranga is doing. Look at what Kiambu is doing. Look at Nyeri, what Mutahi Kahiga is doing. And we always tell governors that give devolution 20 to 30 years, there'll be a very big difference. That those counties that, depending on the leadership that they chose, their counties will be up there. They will have taken off. But other counties will not have gone anywhere. And from the report, when we did the impact assessment, you'll realize that there is a county in this country you'll go to, and you will never see any complete project 10 years after devolution, which is a very sad situation.
You know, that is extremely sad. And first of all, I must commend you on your courage to speak about formulas, because again, we've discussed this almost since last week to this week, where successive governments, successive commissions consider the other commissions to have been either incompetent or not a priority to them. So it's important to hear someone in authority say that sometimes it's important to keep the things that were there behind. My question is this: you've talked briefly about the issue of staff establishment and how much they should be remunerated. Now, I know, for example, the state agencies, which have around 95 people, their staff establishment cost is 250 million, and the government gives them 251 million, so they're left with 1 million to do all the projects. So there is a squeeze that when you have bad staff establishments and the cost. So my question to you, when you say that counties need to spend 3 billion. Is this 3 billion fixed that you cannot hire below or beyond 3 billion? Can they hire below that? Because one of the biggest sources of corruption, I remember when Governor Simba Arati came in, he had a very public conference establishing ghost workers and things like that.
He went to the stadium.
He went to the stadium. It was a baraza.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is it a big problem in counties that we are overspending 3 billion? Should we spend 3 billion? And to Siti's question, if you are coming from Lamu, would you need the same staff establishment as Nairobi? Or perhaps you could do with staff for 500 million and spend 2.5 billion actually helping your people.
Mark, the political leadership, and this covers all political leaderships, are not vested in focusing on how to develop the jurisdiction that they oversee.
Yeah.
That's not it. And you can see by their actions.
But that's what I mean.
How do you just employ, how can your focus be to employ people? I mean, then how?
Both.
And then you're telling us.
They have 12 CECs, and then they have 12 advisors. In the exact same departments as the CECs, by the way, yeah?
The SRC, Salaries and Remuneration Commission, has been given a mandate by the Constitution to do staff establishment and the salaries that they're supposed to. So when we are, as a commission, we do our recurrent expenditure ceilings, we use the circulars and the Constitution. And actually, this financial year, we have been doing the ceilings for the past 2 years, and we have seen some change, because actually you will go to a county and they'll be like, oh, you mean we are supposed to have only 14 chief officers and yet we have 30. Some didn't even know. But now with this, they now understand, and we have even proposed to the Senate that now they need to give sanctions to these counties that are overemploying. If you are supposed to have 14 chief officers, you go beyond that, there are sanctions that you'll get from the the Senate will introduce.
You actually see that happening.
Yes, it will happen. And then, number 2, there's the issue of recurrent expenditure and development expenditure. I always say that the issue of recurrent expenditure, there's the cure for that, when we are being told that at least a county should not spend less than 30% of the budget on development and not more than 35% on recurrent expenditure. But actually, the issue of recurrent expenditure and development is not just what we see on the surface of development vis-a-vis salaries. It's also the issue of defining what is recurrent expenditure and what is development. You find that counties spend money on maybe training the health practitioners, training ECD. For me, that is development, because it's human development.
You left out benchmarking.
No, benchmarking, that is something else. But now, when it comes to book of accounts, it's recorded as recurrent expenditure, and now that balloons recurrent expenditure. And that is why we have even recommended to the National Treasury, when they're doing the Public Finance Management Amendment, they need to redefine what is recurrent and what is development, so that we are not going to get counties every day that you people, you are not spending on development, and yet they're spending on some development that is described as recurrent expenditure.
Madam Commissioner, wouldn't you say that development is something that by definition must be visible? one must see it.
Yeah, development is visible, but I'll throw back a question to you. If I'm trained by a county government, is that development or what is it?
Yes, it's human resource development, and it must manifest.
Yes.
Meaning, if, for instance, we had a finance department that we said lacked certain abilities, we should then see the management of our finances improve because of the development or the investment we put in the human resource. We should see it. All of it should be manifest.
We should see it, and that is why we're saying we need to redefine that. Because even when a governor buys health equipments in a hospital, that is captured as recurrent, not as development. And me and you will agree that actually when a governor buys health equipment in a facility, that is development.
Yes,
and that is where the problem,
it's true.
The problem is.
But what he buys, the commodities and equipment, again, they must be visible. You must go to the health facility and actually see them. We hear of the expenditure, but we often get reports that the visibility of the said items that were purchased.
Now hear it from the horse's mouth. The biggest issue with development vis-a-vis recurrent expenditure is definition. Because a lot has been done by the counties, and it's captured as, even the tractors that you see governors buy, helping people in the farms there, they're captured as recurrent expenditure, not the fuel that is spent there.
So that human resource investment in the finance department and the economic planning has gone to waste, because it is them who go around defining it and putting it in the column that they shouldn't.
No, it's the Public Finance Management Act of 2012, and that is why we are advocating for its amendment to redefine what is recurrent and what is development. So and that way now Kenyans will start seeing a big difference. And then, the government has a roadmap of achieving the wage bill, curbing the wage bill to below 35% by 2028. And there are so many things that are being done. Stop laughing, City. You need to be proud of your country.
I am very proud of my country because I know my country and I understand my country.
But City, to be very honest, there is lots of county governments that have done very, very well.
Actually,
and what she's talking about...
Actually, 3 counties has achieved that, the cap of, I think it's Elgeyo Marakwet. I'm not sure of the counties, but at least there are 3, and Elgeyo Marakwet is one of them, that their recurrent expenditure is not above 35%. And then around 10 counties have achieved the cap of 30% development expenditure.
And this is something
from zero, we're now talking about 10 counties, and I know we are progressing
but
onward. Although slow, but we are progressing.
We also need to remember it's just been 10 years. Devolution has done a lot in this country.
Indeed it has. I think that we need to keep talking about this, because I'm still trying to say that, even when we talk about allocation, to be sure that, that the funds that are being actually allocated, even though they're determined later on, have to be seen to be working. And I think devolution is actually a great thing that has happened for the country. Thank you so much for being here. A commissioner with Revenue Allocation Commission, Hadida Juma, has been our guest this hour. Asante Sana. The conversations must continue. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up